Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. I'm excited for our guest today. Kip and I met at an Arte event, I don't know, a few years ago now. I don't remember exactly when, but it's been a little while. He's in Minnesota and he's in recruiting, has started his own firm about 5 or 6 years ago. C-level executive recruiting, has come from a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll let him tell a little bit of how he transitioned, what transitioned him, like all of that kind of stuff. Guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. That's how we get the word out. So thank you so much for being on, Kip. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate it myself. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Awesome. Well, let's get into things. So, you said you went to law school and then you were in commercial stuff. Like, explain to our listeners a little bit more of like your transition from all of that to recruiting and then opening your own business and
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
just go
Yeah.
through whatever.
So my dad's a lawyer, so I grew up just like knowing like I was going to go to law school and be a lawyer. And so when you're graduating college and everyone's trying to find a job, I just knew I was going to go to law school. So that was just like super easy. Yeah. So did corporate mergers and acquisitions and commercial real estate law, buying and selling companies, buying and selling real estate for many years. And then I really liked my law practice, but the part I really liked was putting the deals together. And I found as a lawyer, you don't get to do that a whole lot. It's more like the decision makers have already done that. Then they come to the firm and say, here's our terms, solve these problems as we're heading to a closing, or, just paper the deal. So I ended up going to CB Richard Ellis, which is the largest commercial real estate company in the world. And at CB, I was in what we call global corporate services. So essentially it's representing companies in doing the real estate. So mostly leases, negotiating leases, or buying and selling real estate if the company owned it for their own business, not to be a landlord, not to be an investor. And my clients were primarily Minnesota-based companies and did the real estate, technically all around the world, but mostly around the US, or companies headquartered in other states or other countries, but had a big presence in Minnesota. And did that for many years and loved it. And then met some people in the executive recruiting world, really just to refer business back and forth. And then for about a year, they recruited me to come and join them. And then I finally did. But from day one, when I joined them, all my clients were my own. Like I won my own work, I executed my own work. My clients had never heard of our firm until I introduced them. But initially, it was just my real estate clients. Instead of doing real estate, I started doing executive search locally and around the country, and did that with that firm for a while, and then kind of wised up and launched my own firm and been off and running. And I could not be happier. Like one of the best decisions of my life.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot in a very short amount of
Yeah.
time. What were some of the challenges that you overcame through that? Did you have a lot of support through your family as you transitioned from law, which sounds like it was kind of like a family thing, to commercial and then recruiting? What were some of the challenges that you personally, have had to work through?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. My parents are absolutely amazing, super supportive, but they don't really like change. Like they've lived in the same house their entire life. Like they bought their house with my mom. They found out my mom was pregnant with me and lived there forever. And actually, like during the first like lockdown on COVID, then they actually moved into a smaller place. But they don't like change. My dad's been at the same exact law firm his entire life. And so while they were supportive, I think they were skeptical or worried or like, what is he doing? But again, super supportive. And yeah, and I've always just been wired in a way that like, I don't really care what anybody thinks. Like, I mean, obviously I want to be a good person and be a moral and ethical person and treat people right. But like, ultimately I got to decide what's right for me and what fulfills me and where I can truly give back to the world and make an impact. And that was kind of the transition from the law practice to the real estate and then ultimately to what I'm doing now, which is absolutely amazing. Helping, obviously we're putting executives in companies that help grow and help their companies thrive and create more jobs. But what the candidates we're placing, we're totally impacting their lives and their families and the trajectory of their career and their fulfillment. And it's just a very, very rewarding job what we do.
I love it. So what were some of the things that you found? Was it easy just starting your own business? Like, was it easy transitioning for you, it sounds like it was kind of a little bit of a simple thing, but I'm guessing not. So what were some of the challenges that you did overcome, and and are working through? And how would you suggest to someone listening going, I'm trying to transition and things are tough, in order to transition into your purpose and your calling?
Yeah, no, these are great questions. I mean, looking back, I mean, the hardest decision I made was deciding to pull the trigger and just start my own company, bet on myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was the hardest. But looking back, I mean, since then, there's been decisions that are way harder, but like making that initial leap and going from, creating momentum out of nothing, I mean, that's the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
But it was it was a little easier for me in that, I was already doing the same work, and in the beginning, it really didn't change a whole lot. It was just now it's under my name, and all my clients came with me, so I just had a built-in, client base from day one, as opposed to just starting something totally from scratch. Um, but I think, I always just encourage people, because when you can imagine what we do, a lot of people just reach out. They're looking to make a change in their career, whether it's just going to a different company doing the same work or totally changing. And I always just encourage people to just spend a little bit of time and think, if I could paint the perfect job, at the perfect organization, or starting your own thing, what would that be? Or maybe, three examples of that are totally different, and then go look for that. Because you can always broaden your search or broaden the things you're looking at, but why not look for exactly what you think would be perfect for you and would, fire you up, be passionate about, excited about, and go try to find that, because it's probably out there. And then the other big shift, going from working at the recruiting firm I was at before to starting my own, was you're motivated in a totally different way, because you are now rewarded for the time you put in. So if you stay up, till 2 or 3 in the morning working, like, you directly are impacted by that, rather than, making someone else wealthy or rich or getting the results. I mean, you're just motivated in a totally different way when it's you on the line. And if you fail, it's your fault. You've got nobody else to blame. And if you succeed, obviously you have tons of people that you're helping you, and you're not doing it yourself. But it's just a totally different motivation and actual control in your life. So I would encourage people. I mean, not everyone's wired to do that and be an entrepreneur, but if you are, I mean, I'm sure you have this when you talk to other people and people in Arte. Now I could never go back and be an employee or work for somebody. Like, I just could not ever do that after tasting what entrepreneurship is all about.
What were some of the hard parts of entrepreneurship for you? Did you always know, like, if you think back 5-6 years when you started, where you're like, yeah, for sure, I'm making it, this is easy, I've got this? Or were there moments where you thought about quitting and going back to a job?
Oh, great question. I never thought about quitting.
Okay.
I mean, it's certainly not been easy, but I mean, I would say, I always tell people I work harder and work way more than I ever have in my whole life, but you really do have the freedom and flexibility and total control.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to, like, pour that into it and just do more. But if there's a day I'm just totally feeling sick, I could just totally lay down all day and not feel bad about it. Or if you decide you just need a break, to take a long weekend and go hiking in Vermont, which I did about a month ago, kind of when the leaves changed, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not easy, but it's so rewarding.
So the not easy part is what I want to touch on.
Okay.
What do you do on the days? So, like, people are listening to this, you're making it sound kind of like it's just kind of like you just do it. So on the days that you don't, but I know any entrepreneur is different. So it's not like that. So on the days that you don't feel like it, what gets you motivated to actually do the things? Because I mean, a lot of people love the freedom. I mean, that sounds great. But what they're doing is they're taking off the whole month and they just started, or they're taking off the whole year and because I have freedom, and that's, so the advertisation of freedom and entrepreneurship kind of makes me giggle a little bit, because in the first couple of years, how much time did you actually take off? And what did you do on days you didn't feel like working?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably zero time off in the beginning. I mean, even though I had a built-in client base, I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's hard, it's almost it's you hear about all this in personal development, just the power of mindset, and it really is it is really all up here. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a rough day in work or I really am into like lifting weights and fitness and training and doing triathlons and stuff. And when you feel like crap, still training and doing that, like those are almost the separators. Like when you really don't feel like it, because everybody doesn't feel like it certain days or things are going bad. But if you push through, you really are, like we talk about in art day, separation season, you're separating yourself from the competition. And I just, over time, it wasn't easy in the beginning, but over time, I've really crafted my mind and my mindset. I call it like practical optimism, just to like to push out the negative and focus on the positive, even if like 90% of your day is horrible, like truly horrible. But there's like that 10% that's good, and focus there and just keep your mind there, pushing through the other things. And then the other thing is just to tackle the worst thing, the thing you least want to do first. Just get it over with. Because the thinking about it is what's so bad. When you're thinking about a decision you have to make or a call you have to make or something you have to do, and you're dreading it, rather than just like taking care of it in the moment. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
so much easier. Even though it might be a tough thing to do, it's the thinking about it for, all day long or for a week. And that's the thing that's
Mm-hmm.
just agonizing. So to try to like in the moment make those decisions, and not everything you can decide right away, but try to tackle the hardest things, the things you least want to do first, and then that becomes easier. You almost get addicted to, the more you fine tune things, your business or things in life, you're almost looking for problems that you can just solve, and then they become smaller and smaller, and you're doing it faster and faster, and it becomes easier and easier. And then you almost kind of get numb to it too, just in entrepreneurship. I mean, because there's bad things, weird things, totally out of the blue things that are happening all day long. But if you just deal with them rather than thinking about them, it makes it a whole lot easier.
So I love this because you're a pretty positive guy. Have you always been that way? And on the things that are negative, what actually like what are some tangible things that help someone actually find the positive in a quote negative situation?
Yeah, no, great questions. I would say yes, I have always been naturally just like blessed with just like that is how I am, positive. And I mean, both my parents are fantastic, but especially my mom is just like constant positivity. She'd be saying this, but maybe to the point of like delusion. Like she'll just like tune out reality and just be positive.
I
And
like
that's
it.
why I've tried to like, I was probably like that. And the thing I've learned over time is to do that like practical optimism. Like, look at this is really how the world is, but I choose to, look at it this way, or I choose to take this angle on it. And I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm just like super early into it called the uh, the Gap and the Gain, which if I don't know if you've heard the book, 10x is easier than 2x, but it's the same two authors. But just folks talking about like the gap is, and it's in all areas of life, business, personal, where you have this totally unrealistic ideal, and you're comparing yourself to that, or you're comparing your kids to that, or your
Mm-hmm.
spouse to that, or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or anyone in your life to like this unrealistic perfection,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the gain, where you look at where somebody was or where you were, and look how much you've gained, look how much you've improved in whatever area, and then focusing on those things rather than this totally unrealistic perfection, which you'll never attain, and you're always going to feel negative and feel less than, as opposed to look how far we've come. I mean, I'm pushing hard, I'm trying to always improve, but look how far I've come, and focusing on that. It's almost like the glass half full or glass empty.
Mm-hmm.
I've really tried to hone even before reading this book, and just thinking that way, um, and that there really is no perfection. And I mean, perfection's an illusion, and it's really an excuse, um, for people not to take action. That's probably another thing that's been super helpful is just taking action.
Mm-hmm.
Just make a decision and move forward, even if it's the wrong one, and then you can just micro pivot and make adjustments, but constantly moving forward, creating momentum, keeping that momentum going, rather than analysis paralysis and not making a decision, not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's worse, and that's when you get in your head and you start to think of all these negative things, as opposed to just making forward progress and taking action, it just almost creates positivity because you're doing something, even if it's not necessarily perfect or it's not totally the right thing, but you're looking for, how can I shift so I'm heading towards where I want to go. That's super helpful. And it really all goes back to this mindset stuff. And that I was just having this discussion last night. Like, bad things happen and that you don't have control over, but you do have control over how you react to it. Even if it's horrible, you can recognize this is a horrible thing that's happened, but here's where I choose to go from there. Here's the lesson I can learn from this. Here's something I will never do again. Or this is a person in my life that I need to distance myself from, even though they might be, in your family or a friend you grew up with. And instead of like totally cutting them out of your life, maybe instead of, seeing them every week, you see them once a month or once every couple months, and just like trying to get the right positive influences and positive people in your life, reading books, watching, whether it's movies or other things that are putting positive things into your brain instead of negativity. I don't know. I mean, it just gets.
And have you always been into reading and listening and that kind of thing, or was there a switch that you started into that world? Because that's something that I picked up on, that you just kind of like, it's part of your life right now, but a lot of people it's not. So when did you get into reading, personal development, and how do they play a role, and how do associations play a role, you feel, in development?
These are such good questions. You're welcome. I would say, I mean, like, just like going way back to like high school, like,
okay,
I had to read so much in high school and I hated it. I hated reading. I wanted to be outside, like playing sports and like just doing things. And it wasn't until college when I got to read what I wanted. Like, obviously you still got to read stuff for school, but like when I actually got the time to choose what I wanted to read, I developed a tremendous love of reading, of all types of things, fiction, nonfiction, personal development. I mean, just, I love reading, and now just I'm constantly consuming books. But it wasn't really until college when I really got to choose, what do I want to read, and then doing that. And then I've gotten on kicks where it's just like personal development book after one after another, and you're teeing up the next one before you finish the last one. Or you get into like even just like fiction books, and just like you read like the whole series, and like, so you kind of get in different momentums, or but more and more and more, I've tried to just constantly have a book going. I usually have a book. So I have like, this year's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. So I usually have like a physical book I'm reading, and then the Gain and the Gap I'm listening to on Audible. So whenever I'm driving in the car, I'm usually listening to that. So I usually have two of them going at once. And then if like the Gain and the Gap is so good, like I'll probably buy it too, and because I like to highlight and write my books. So if I have a really good Audible, I usually buy the physical book and then read it too, so I can highlight in that too. So I usually have, again, two going at once, but I don't like I have people that read like 5 books at once, and they're constantly like reading part of one and another. And I can't do that. Like, I need to like complete one, then start the next one. But I can do an Audible and a physical book, but just like one at a time. But it gets addicting. It's like binging Netflix, like just binging books, and if you're putting the right types of things in your brain, I mean, you're just like continuing to learn. And someone said, it might have even been Ed Milet, I can't remember, but like, if you spend $30 on a book, but you just get one great idea out of it, it's worth the price of the book. And like, that's a total mind shift too. For people that think, oh, I don't want to spend all this money on a book, but all you really need is one great idea, one different thing. The power of one more. I mean, that just kind of like came out of that. But like, all you need is one great thing out of a book that you learn that's new, and it's worth the price you paid for it. And most of these books have a lot more than just one thing that you're gaining.
So true. So yeah, guys, you're listening. Obviously, we talk about this stuff almost on every podcast. Success Leave Clues. So if you're not reading, maybe start. Even if it's one page, start with something. So, and then associations. I mean, you're in Arte, we're going to the summit coming up, which is awesome. How do you feel that plays a role in your development as a leader, in entrepreneurship, in success, whatever it is to you. How do you feel that plays a role? And has it changed much over the years from going from law to commercial to, recruiting to running your own business? And if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. The associations are, I mean, all these things are probably of equal importance, but that's so critical. And it's funny that I didn't even think of that until you said it, but like the associations when I was practicing law, like those are totally different people with a totally different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the commercial real estate people are a little bit more like where we are now, but like the people in entrepreneurship and Arate as an example are just on another level. I remember going to my very first Arate summit, and family and friends are like, who's speaking? I'm like, I have no idea. I just know it's going to be great. And then I remember texting and calling again family and friends from the event and being like, these are my people. Like, these are my people. I don't feel like a crazy person. These are my people. And that is exactly how I felt. It was like we've all been like through war. I mean, individually, like
Mm-hmm.
our own wars. Every single person had hit rock bottom and come back at least once, maybe twice, maybe more. But it was just like this shared experience, even though it was totally separate. And then nobody was talking about themselves. Everybody was asking questions and trying to learn about each other. Nobody was trying to act like they were the most successful, or obviously in Arte there's a lot of people that work out and stuff, or trying to be the fittest. I mean, nobody was. It was all about each other and pouring into each other. But people with kind of the same goals, what they're trying to do in life. I mean, you've heard the thing that that you are your five closest friends. I mean, that's probably the top of your income, learning ability, what you have interest in life. I mean, you are who you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to find the right people is so critical, and especially in Arate, to have people that are way beyond where you're at, so you can learn the things that you don't know. I mean, the questions you don't even know to ask, you ask people that are there and where you want to be. And I remember I was in a like a mastermind group of executive search firm owners, from like 1-person firms up to 50-person firms. And right before I joined Arate, I kind of was feeling like I'm outgrowing this group. Like, I'm bringing all the ideas, and like
Mm-hmm.
I needed something that was way beyond me, and which Arte turned out to be, and to be fantastic. And I mean, if you're the smartest person in the room, or the person with the most creative or the most innovative, you're probably in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be with people that are way beyond where you're at. And I know the other thing in life, for like to be happy and positive, is to remember there will always be people in better health than you. There'll always be people with worse health. There will always be people with more money. There will always be people with less money. There will always be people on both sides of you. But to be content where you're at, you can still set goals and work towards getting better in all areas of life. But there will always be someone that's better at it than you, and someone that's worse. And not to compare yourself to other people, but just like compare yourself to yourself and on your journey and what you're trying to do. That's a super helpful mindset trick too. But back to your actual question, I mean, the people you surround yourself with are so important. And if you're surrounding yourself with negative people all the time, that you're gonna start to think like that, because it's pumping into your head, as opposed to positive people, and then that's getting pumped into your head. There's so many things you can do to. It's just these inputs that you're putting into again, all areas of life, like the food you eat, the things you put in your head, the books you read, the television or movies that you watch, the physical things that you do. It all has such a huge impact on who you are and who you're becoming. And I truly believe it. I mean, you're either growing and getting better, or you're dying and worse. There is no like staying the same. Like, and even if you are staying the same, the world's going like this, and you're staying here, you're being left behind if you're not. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
rambling,
true.
but
It's so true. Associations are everything. So switching gears a little bit before we go into, wrapping up and stuff, because I do want to talk a little bit about what you actually do. And, you do C-level recruiting. Someone's listening to this and now they want to actually be recruited. What are some things that you're looking for? I'm curious. I have no idea on this stuff that you're looking for from someone that wants to become like in that kind of getting those jobs? Like what do you look for?
Yeah, that's again another excellent question. It really goes down. I mean, there's a million people that could be a CFO at a technology company. So really what we're getting to is what are the core values of the company, the culture, and then looking at the person. What are their own personal core values? What kind of culture do they want? And trying to fuse those things. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, what's most important. And as you know, as we allude to, like when people find out what I do, I mean, obviously they reach out all the time and want to introduce themselves. And the truth is, if you're truly excellent at whatever you do, like we'll find you. You don't have to come to us. We will find you. That's what we get paid to do. Because it's true headhunting. We don't ever post a job anywhere. You'll never see our roles anywhere. It's, you know, deep diving with the client, really finding out what we're looking for. And then we do research and then we reach out directly and like talk to people and text them and email and LinkedIn and all the different technologies. But it's true headhunting, finding people that are 99% of the time, excuse me, fully engaged in their job, knocking out of the park, loving what they do, but we just come along with a better opportunity for one reason or another, and that's why they move. So it's usually never people looking for a job. The one exception is we do a fair amount of work with like private equity portfolio companies or venture capital backed companies or family office portfolio companies, and maybe they just had an exit, they just sold the company, and now they're looking for their next role. And that's usually the only type of people that are looking for a job that, you know, are in our realm. But yeah, but it really comes down to culture and core values, and it becomes just super specific to the opportunity in the company. You know, there's a huge difference between someone that wants to be a CFO in a family-run business that's, you know, been around for 2 generations, and it's, you know, you could be the CFO there for the next 20 years versus being a CFO at a private equity-backed company where they're probably going to sell the company in 3 to 5 years, but you work your butt off for that amount of time, then you have hopefully a good exit, and you know, you have good results. And then a lot of times people take 6 months off and just recoup because it was super intense, and then they do it all over again. Okay. And so there's people that like that, you know, the grind, then a little bit of break, and then the grind. And then there's other people that are wired and just want to have more of a lifestyle type of role. Then there's working for public companies where there's reporting and all the things dealing with Wall Street and the stock market, and that's a totally different world. So it's just very specific to, you know, industry, the type of company, the stage of the company, but really ultimately, you know, there's a lot of people that fit in all those categories. It comes down to who really is the right culture fit and the core values fit and the right personality fit for who they're going to specifically work with.
I love it. So a question. So you're recruiting people from a job that they like, maybe love, quote unquote, and you're trying to recruit them into something else. What do you find? You've been doing this for a while. What do you find is the biggest reason why someone would leave a job they like to switch? Is it money? Is it lifestyle? You talked about core values and culture. What do you find is like, what do you use to lure someone? I don't know if that's the right word, from one job to another. Is there like a number one, or is it really depends on the person, or do you find there is something that really starts to lure people?
Yeah, it really does depend on the person. I would say if someone's totally motivated by money, they're probably not a fit, and we probably wouldn't even present them to our client because, you know, they'll be in the role, and then the next time another money thing comes along, they'll just leave because we're trying to find long-term fits. I would say the biggest thing is really, again, culture and core values, and like if they really believe in the business, in the product, you know, because most of the people that we're dealing with are pretty successful. They've been successful throughout their life. They don't, obviously they want to continue to make a good living, but they're not so money motivated. It's the opportunity, it's the impact. I mean, those are the types of things, you know, why they make their moves. Or, you know, it's the opportunity to work with amazing people. Like, you know, there's a lot of serial entrepreneurs that have had great success and just have a fantastic reputation. Someone would be like, I want to work with Sally, you know, Smith. She's fantastic. And you know, so that's a lot of times it's personality too. But it really depends on the person. Sometimes, and the COVID and lockdowns and all those types of things really shook things up, in that people made such changes in their life, working from home or relocating into, to another state, but still doing their same job. So many more people are open to talking to us because they've already made such huge changes in their life. Even if they've been in the same role for a long time and super happy, they're just more open to, well, what else is out there? I love my job. I've been here for 15 years, but it might be fun to just shake it up and try something different. So there's all kinds of different motivations.
That's so good. I love it. So yeah, so if you're looking for someone who like that, it's about the core values and yeah, where you're going. So, that's something I'm taking, because I'm like, we're always looking for great people. How do we talk to great people? So core values, culture is really important. I love knowing that. And hearing that, and money is not the number one thing, or like you said, they will switch as soon as something seems better, whether it is or not, they will switch. And that's so good. So in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions, and then anything that we didn't touch on that you just think we really needed to, touch on, and whether it's your job, whether it's, your bit, whatever it is, doesn't even matter, whatever you think is important. So first and final question is, if someone is looking for their purpose, what is one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
If they're looking for their purpose, ooh,
Make it a paragraph, whatever.
yeah, looking for their purpose, one sentence. I would say, okay, here's one way to look at it. You're on your deathbed, looking back, or you've just like passed away and you're in heaven and you're looking back on your life. What sort of impact do you wish you would have had on the world?
I like that.
What?
This is a social media post.
Yeah.
I like this. This is good. I'm like,
I think that's the real thing. What sort of impact do you wish you had? And I've just talked to so many people that are in great jobs at fantastic companies, but they're just like in the middle of the company, and it's like lifeless, and they're making tons of money, but they just feel empty inside. And I can't tell you how many people would those types of people would take another job for less money, but more fulfillment.
Mm.
And sometimes it takes a while. Like you have to get to a point that you have enough, financial independence that you can be at that point and be like, okay, I feel good money wise. Now I just want to find something that really fulfills me. So sorry, that's more than the sentence, but like, I think fulfillment.
Look back at your life. How do you want to be remembered? It's good.
There you go. Yeah, that's way better than what I said.
Well, that's what you said at the beginning, and then you just went off. But that was your original sentence, and I love that. That's so good. Number 2, and I'm sure you have more than one, but what comes to mind? What's a favorite quote and why?
Oh God, there's so many. Oh boy, that is tough to pin down. Pressure is a privilege, and I don't have like who said that, but like I actually have that on my wall here. That's what made me think of it. Pressure is a privilege, and maybe it just goes to entrepreneurs, but like it is to be in a position where you have pressure and you can make an impact and make decisions and make things happen. That's a privilege. Pressure is a privilege.
And number 3rd question actually kind of touches on how you talked about your purpose. So what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
He served the Lord and built my kingdom, or helped build my kingdom. Didn't build it, helped.
Yeah, I got you. That's good. I like that. All right, awesome. So you run into someone in the coffee shop and, hey, Kip, that was awesome. Like, now I'm reading, I'm watching my associations, I'm, looking for fulfillment, I'm looking back at my life, and we touched on a lot of things. Was there anything that we didn't touch on that you just think is really important for our listeners to hear before you wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just to try to help other people. Like when you get out of your own head and focus on yourself and you start trying to help other people, it helps you be more positive and less negative. It's hard to feel bad for yourself and feel negative when you're out there helping people. Whether it's just like volunteering at like a soup kitchen or like a nursing home, or it's in your job. But if you're helping other people and trying to add value to them, like that will unlock a lot of these things.
Good. I love it. Awesome. Guys, I know you'll want to share this. Make sure to share it. We'll have all of Kip's information in the show notes, so reach out to him if you have any questions, or you're recruiting, or you're looking for recruits, or whatever. Obviously, that's his business, but on anything else, I know he's super helpful. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. Guys, let's go out there let's help a life. If we can change one starfish or one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you very much.